and let's get to it. So, I want to talk about the CIES Football Observatory's transfer value list. This was brought to my attention by Yusuf, and I think it's very, very interesting because I disagree strongly with so many of the placings on this list. I will have the list up on screen for you guys watching the playback of this live stream. And looking at this list in its entirety, there is definitely some problematic things on here. I mean, Timo Varner, who was bought by Chelsea for 53 million euros this summer, his value apparently now is 135 million euros after playing some questionable football at Chelsea. I'm not saying he's been terrible. He has not been good though either. And for his transfer value to double, this just makes me know initially that majority of the transfers on this list are absolutely inflated. And based on what they've said in the description and how they are explaining it, this list is based on an algorithm. And the algorithm is looking at a couple factors. They're looking at age. They're looking at length of the contract left. And they're looking at, obviously, skill, talent, and potential. Potential is a keyword here of the player. So, for example, I think a good example they give is of Lionel Messi. They only have his value at 54 million. But again, he only has 6 months on his contract, and he's getting up there in age. So I'm pretty fine with that. I think it would still be a little more, but I'm pretty fine with that. Ronaldo is only at 47 million euros. And that's because, again, age 35 years old. And again, his contract is not that much longer. I still think they totally undervalue Ronaldo on this list. I mean, his contract with Juventus expires in June of 2022. That's over a year and a half away. So my comment there would be, I think they're totally undervaluing him considering how good he's been. But again, he is getting up there in age. So it is somewhat understanding. But I still think they've undervalued two of the best players in the world, which I think is crazy. But the rest of the list, in my opinion, they've overvalued so many other players. I'm looking through here. Marcus Rashford. I absolutely love Marcus Rashford. As you guys know, I am a massive Manchester United fan. 165 million euros. I'm sorry, I don't think he's worth that. I think that's a lot of money for a player who's yet to, I don't think Rashford scored over 20 goals in the Premier League yet. And we're valuing him that high. He's young, he is 23. I think he has lots of value to him. But again, I think he's a little overvalued. I would definitely not have Rashford first on this list. If I was looking at first on this list, I think Erlang Holland would be a good option. I think Holland is a fantastic player. Again, though, there are questions about how long he's been able to keep this form for. But I think Holland would be up there. I think also I'm looking at Mbappe. I think they've undervalued Mbappe here. Let's not forget how good he is. He's still younger than Marcus Rashford. Still, in my opinion, a better player. Not saying Rashford's been bad at all. But again, I think Mbappe, Holland for me should be up there. I think Trent Alexander-Arnold is overvalued. I'm looking at the comparison between him and Alphonso Davies. First off, I'm never paying that much money for a fullback. I think the interesting aspect to Davies and Arnold are that, yes, these two players are players that could be converted into... Trent could be converted into a midfielder, Davies into a winger. So I see why there's value there. But again, I would never pay that much money for a fullback. I think that's silly. But also, I don't think Trent's upside is as high, or his potential is as high as Davies. So I don't quite understand why they would value him that much higher. I think it's roughly a 10 million difference. I think both of them should be lower in value. Kai Havertz at 136 million euros. When in my opinion, I mean, he hasn't even lived up to his 100 million euro value at Chelsea. He's been far from it. So how has he gained value since then? And this is why this list is very weird. It's based on this algorithm, and they clearly didn't. They've clearly let the algorithm decide everything. Whereas I think, yes, use an algorithm, but then go in there and change things based off of human experience, based off of our knowledge, based off of the eye test as it's typically used. And then there's some absolutely baffling ones on here. Mohamed Salla is below Timo Varner. Mohamed Salla, 13 goals, 3 assists, arguably one of the best players in the Premier League this season, is below Timo Varner, who's struggling to score at the moment. I mean, that is blasphemous to me. To put it in perspective, Timo Varner is age 24. Mohamed Salah is age 28. There's not a huge age difference in there, lads. It's not like Salah's at the end of his career and Werner is just starting. they're both players in their prime. Is yes, Werner's entering his prime. Salla's maybe on the back end of his prime, back burner. But they still both got fantastic years of football left ahead of them. And that is where this list, I mean, you have to make some judgments here. And it just doesn't make any sense to me. I think one player that they did get correctly was Zhao Felix. They put him at 141 million. He was bought by Atletico for 113 million euros. And yeah, he's performed, so his value's gone up. That's a good example of how the algorithm is tracking the inflation in football prices. But overall, players' prices don't get inflated even if they perform poorly. We look at Paul Pogba. I don't have his number on this list, but he's not nearly up near the price that they had him valued at when United bought him because he hasn't performed at the level he should have. So it doesn't make a lot of sense. Ruben Diaz, again, I think he's performed very well at Manchester City. But enough for his value to double? No. He was bought by City for 68 million euros. At the time, people thought they bought him for too much. Now they're valuing him at 126 million euros? No, that's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And what even baffles me further, listen, Harry Kane, best player in the Premier League this season, age 27, is only valued at 107 million euros, below Kai Havertz, below Timo Werner. That is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. In my opinion, I think Harry Kane should be atop of this list. A, because he's still in the heart of his prime, and B, because right now, he's playing like one of, if not the best, footballers in the world. He has all he ticks all the boxes on here. Is he in his prime? Yes. Is he in the middle of his prime, not leaving it? Yes. Is he playing well? Yes. Does he have potential? Yes. I mean, that is absolutely ridiculous in my opinion, that they have him so low. They have him below Mason Mount. They have him below Timo Werner, below Kai Havertz. And this list was just absolutely shocking. I can't back it at all. And again, I understand what they were trying to do here. They were trying to look at potential. They're trying to look at performance. They're trying to look at amount of time left on the contract. But with all that in mind, I mean, it is about performance now. For majority of these clubs that are going to be buying these insanely expensive players, it is about what can they add to my team in terms of value now. And it's just questionable how they've gone about making this list. So I thought it was really important to talk about, to address. I know it had gotten slated by many other football YouTubers, football personalities, by pundits. But again, I think they've totally overplayed into some of those aspects. So we will end it at that. End of our first segment. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that.
Give me that AK.
Everybody's grounded, but I'm off to the races. Yeah, you know I'm lost and they all in other places. Maybe sometimes it's good to be complacent.